Okay, so let's begin. So to introduce illumination engineering, so first we have to talk about light, which is a form of electromagnetic energy radiated from a body which is capable of being perceived by the human eye. So of course, our strongest source of light is, or the nearest to us is our star, which is the sun. No, so that's our natural lighting. But humans have developed a way to somehow replicate that light, no? Especially for enclosures, no, like residential homes or commercial or industrial use. And especially uh, during such time in the night that our main source of light, which is the sun, is not usually available. So when you say lighting, so lighting is the application of light to spaces. Okay, so where the light is placed at what relative intensities and in what direction can have a major impact. So not only on vision, visual comfort, no, but also perception. That's why. So I told you last time on your design, no, you can't just blindly select uh, or randomly select your light sources for your design, no, based on your preference only. Okay, so there's a science and there's an engineering behind the selection of light sources and also the design of light sources, no, especially in electrical engineering. So lighting can impact satisfaction, visibility, task performance, and also safety, security, sales, mood, and atmosphere, and many other applications. Okay, so without lighting, a lot of industries will not perform as efficient as they can be. Okay, so poor lighting. So if you have poor lighting, or let's say no lighting at all, no, it can cause eye strain. Okay, so yung mga uh, people, or if for example you're doing this, if you're using your phone, or let's say right now you're attending the class but you're in an environment that is very dark, and there's no sufficient lighting in the environment, your only source of light is your device directly pointed to your eye, so it can cause eye strain. Okay, so please turn on your light as well. So it can also cause headache, same reason. Accidents due to insufficient lighting, let's say on the road, or uh, for example you're walking in a dark street, no, and then there's a tripping hazard and you have no light. Okay, also glare. So glare is yung silaw. Yeah, if too much lighting. Okay, so poor lighting doesn't just mean less lighting. Okay, it also involves too much lighting. So for good lighting system, so your requirement should be adequate illumination of suitable color on the working surface, good maintenance also, and avoidance of hard shows and glare. Okay, so as mentioned before, so you can put uh, chandeliers, no, on every corner of your design. Okay, so just for show or just to make it look uh, pretty or beautiful. So you still have to follow the requirements and standards. So there are many types of lamps available that you can use. So you can reference this for your design, you know, what you're going to choose. So these are all electrically powered lamps, but as you have probably seen around, there are already uh, other sources or other energy sources for our lighting. No, one of the more growing ones is the solar, no, solar powered. There are also, of course, the traditional battery powered lamps, no, and the more traditional and old school, no, yung gasera pa, yung gamit yung gas operated lamps. No, although I think there's not a lot of people using that anymore. No. So for electrical powered lamps, you have two major types. You have incandescent and luminescent. When we say incandescent, so the best description here is aside from light, they also give off heat. So they are operating at higher temperatures. Like for example, your incandescent uh, bulb, no, yung the one used in incubation chambers, no, for eggs or other purposes. And then you have halogen lamps. So halogen lamps are usually used in large spaces. Okay, because at high temperatures, so they can also give off a large amount or high intensity of light. And then you have luminescent lamps. So luminescent lamps are more designed to give off light, no, at lower temperatures. Okay? So you have ESL, discharge lamps, or yung another famous type of lamp right now, which is LED, or light emitting diode. And then you also have for discharge lamp, fluorescent and HID or high intensity. So I think the more common being used here is the fluorescent. Okay, so some more details. So incandescent lamps. So again, they are the oldest type of lamps. No? So before, the design was only to light up a conductor. Okay, so they discovered that the conductor can, aside from carry current, no, like what we have discussed last time, diba? If you put more than enough current on a conductor, it will start to what? Glow and then eventually burn or melt. Now, but if you enclose it, okay, if you enclose it in an enclosure that will somehow maintain the temperature while still giving off the light. For example, your filament or the conductor is made up of tungsten. So it has very high heat resistance. Okay. So that's how incandescent lamps work. So tungsten halogen lamps. So they are type of incandescent lamps that have a small amount of halogen gas. So the halogen there is to contain the temperature. So it prevents the tungsten filament from melting or evaporating at very high temperatures. Okay. So fluorescent lamps, so the more commonly used lamps, so they are type of gas discharge lamps that work by passing an electrical current through a tube filled with low pressure mercury vapor. So the difference with this and the incandescent lamps is the type of gas inside. Okay, so if you have seen a light bulb, let's say fluorescent, no, if you have seen a fluorescent lamp that broke, no, nabasag, if you notice, there's some like powdery substance coming out of it, when it breaks. Okay, so that's the mercury vapor inside. So it emits UV radiation actually, or ultraviolet radiation. No, so it's closer to the light being emitted by the sun. So CFLs are compact fluorescent lamps. So they are a type of fluorescent lamps that are designed to fit into standard household light socket. So CFL is, I think this is the more modern type of fluorescent lamp. Yung bilog lang din. So it looks like an incandescent lamp, diba? Something like this. No? But the enclosure and the design is for fluorescent. Okay? So mercury vapor lamps, so they are type of gas discharge lamps that work, no? So like also like fluorescent lamps. So fluorescent lamps are also generally called mercury vapor lamps. So metal halide lamps. So metal halide lamps are type of gas discharge lamps that work by also passing high pressure mercury vapor and metal halides. Okay, so there's a combined substance no, inside, okay, to prolong no, their lifespan. So as you can see below, so they are also more energy efficient and longer lasting. So up to 10,000 to 20,000 hours than incandescent lamps. Okay? So the 10,000 to 20,000 hours is not their it's not their lifespan. No, it's their difference in lifespan with the incandescent. Okay? So you have also high pressure and low pressure sodium vapor lamps. So high pressure sodium vapor is electric discharge lamp including ionized sodium. Okay, so these are mainly used for street lighting and other lighting. So when you look outside, no, during the night, your street lighting, so they are mostly made of this. While low pressure sodium vapor lamps or LPS, so it includes an internal discharge tube, no, made with borosilicate glass. So this glass is arranged through metal electrodes and with small metallic sodium. So LPS lamps are extensively used in street lights, no, due to their efficiency and capability of their yellow color light to go through fog. So in some other street lightings, you'll see, if you see na yung it's a bit yellowish in color, no, especially in those areas prone to fog. For example, Tagaytay or highland areas or mountain passes. Okay, so they use this low pressure sodium lamps. Okay, because in fog, okay, small trivia here. In fog, because I also drive or in smoky areas, no, it's easier to see the road when you're using yellowish or a warmer light as compared to white light, because white light only blends with the smoke. So it will highlight the smoke, not the road. As compared to a yellow color light, it can go through the fog and highlight the road instead of the fog. Okay? So for example, you're driving a vehicle, no, and you're always, no, going through those foggy areas, no. So you might want to consider using yellow light for your headlight. So LED lamps, so they are electric lights that generate light through light emitting diodes. No? And these are extensively more energy efficient because if you have seen an LED or a diode, so it looks something like this. So it's, yeah, okay. Sorry for the drawing. So, but that's actually your LED. So these are your conductor pins. This is actually your light bulb, and if you can see my drawing here, the actual size of the light bulb or the LED is even smaller than this, but it can emit a light that is comparable to sometimes to a fluorescent lamp, even just one of these. Okay, so the commercially available and most efficient LED lamps have 200 lumens for each watt. So later you will know what does this mean, what does lumens mean, or how is it important, in illumination engineering. Okay. So as also compared to incandescent lamps, the lifespan of LED lamps is more or it's longer. Okay. That's why uh, modern lighting, no, now involves a lot of LED. Okay, because of the lifespan. So those are some of the common types of lamps, no, that you can encounter. So on the next lecture, actually, we still have one more lecture after this. So you have your light sources. Okay, so they are, or in that lecture, so the light sources will be classified according to design and according to use. Right. So for now, we'll do laws of illumination. So the laws of illumination are fundamental principles that govern how light behaves in different environments. Okay. So these laws include inverse square law. So these are what we're gonna talk about here. So inverse square law, Lambert's cosine law, and law of reflection. Okay, so all of which guide the design and application of lighting. So we'll focus here with inverse square law and Lambert's cosine law. So some limitations of the laws of illumination. So the inverse square law is used to measure the illuminance only on the horizontal surfaces. Okay, so take good note of that. So inverse square law is used for horizontal surfaces. That is, the inverse square law is only applicable if the surface is normal to the light flux. What does that mean? So when we say normal to the light flux, it means, for example, you have your light source. Okay, and this is your surface. So it should be, when we say normal, your surface should be horizontal, while your source of light, so diba, it will give off your light towards your source. It should be at an angle of 90 degrees. So that's how we say normal, or other term for normal is perpendicular. Okay. So the source is considered as the point source in inverse square law, but in practice, the point source that does not exist. Hence, a lot of errors are introduced in the calculation of illuminance using inverse square law. Okay, so this is ideal setup, but we know your surface isn't only the one perpendicular. Diba? Sometimes this is your light source in practice, but your surface also involves, let's say, a table here. Okay, but your point source is only available here. So you will also need to consider the light being emitted here. Okay. So the other law, Lambert's cosine law of illuminance, is used to measure illuminance only on inclined surfaces. So if your inverse square law is for surfaces perpendicular to your light source, so for Lambert's cosine law, so it is usually for inclined surfaces. So for example, your surface is somehow inclined. No? So for example, you have a drawing table here. Diba? Usually drawing tables are inclined. No? So we'll use Lambert's cosine law for that. Okay. So first we have inverse square law. So this law states that the illuminance E, so this is the symbol we use for illuminance, at any point on a plane perpendicular to the line joining the point and the source is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the source and the plane. Okay? So that's how it got the name inverse square. Inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the source and plane. So the further an object or surface is from the light source, the less light will hit that object or surface. No, so in practice, that's easy to understand, right? So if your light is farther, of course, this will receive less light. But if your light is nearer, so this will receive more light. Okay? So the level of illumination on a surface drops with the square of the distance. So in equation form, so your illumination, the unit used for illumination is lux. Okay? Lux. While your light intensity I, so this light intensity measured in candela, okay? So remember that. And then your distance is measured in meters. Okay? So in formula, so that is E equals I over D squared. Okay? So meaning the unit of candela per square meter is also lux. Okay? So some conversions here. So common units that we use, no. First one is lux. So this is the SI unit, no, for illumination. Okay, so this is SI. Okay, and then you have the CGS unit. This is also a direct conversion of SI. Okay, so you have uh, candela per square centimeters, no. So the unit there is phot. Okay, parang short for photon, no, phot. And then for English unit, you have foot candle. Okay, if your distance measure is in feet. Okay, so unit conversion. So 1 foot candle, this one, is equal to 10.76 lux. Okay, then 1 foot is equal to 10,000 lux. So the conversion between this one and this one. And then 1 candle power, no, is equal to 0.981 candela. So let's take an example here. So you have a spotlight with 1,000 candelas and a 2-meter height above the floor. Calculate the illumination on the ground. So using inverse square law, so it's only direct substitution. No? So you have 1,000 candela over the distance of the square, so 2 meters squared. So you'll result with 250 lux. Okay, so that is for inverse square law. Next we have is cosine law. So cosine law states that illuminance at a point on a plane is proportional to the cosine of the angle of light incident. Okay, so when you say incident, this is the angle between the direction of the incident light and the normal to the plane. So how do we visualize that? So if you have your light source, okay, then this is your plane. So your angle is, the angle talk about here is, this is the normal, the 90 degrees. So if this is your surface, so this is your required lighting direction. So the incident light is the angle between the direction of the incident light and the normal. So this is your angle. Okay, your angle theta. Okay, so we will use cosine law to solve the illuminance, no, or illumination in this setup. So the illumination is maximum when the light flux falling is equal to the normal to the surface. Now, if the surface is inclined to the light flux falling, then illumination is reduced. So, of course, the maximum lighting here will be if your light source is directly above the surface. Okay? But as your surface moves, no, on an incline away from your light source, then the illumination will be reduced. According to this law, so if the surface is turned so that the rays hit at an angle, the illuminated area will increase in size and the illuminance will drop accordingly. Yeah, this is a more clearer explanation of the figure. So the ratio of the original illuminated area to the new area is equal to the cosine of the angle through which the surface has been moved. Okay? So in this scenario or in equation form, so you have here, diba, this is your illumination, this is your uh, candela or light intensity, and then this is the distance. Okay? So this is the original working formula wherein your cosine theta here, no, like I mentioned before, but this is the angle we're talking about. So this is the normal, okay, and this is your surface, okay? So the cosine theta here is what? Diba, your cosine theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's why it's h over d. So the height over the distance to the surface. So substituting this h over d into your cosine theta here will give you I times h over d cube. So this is your formula here. Okay. So we also know from Pythagorean theorem that your uh, hypotenuse or the distance, diba, with your light source and the surface, no, is equal to the square of that distance is equal to the square of height and what is s. So what s is the distance from the normal to the surface. Okay, so from the normal to the surface. So if your surface is inclined, diba, it's not horizontal. Okay, so you will have an s here. Okay, so s is the distance from the surface to the normal line. Okay, the straight line directly below your light source. Okay, so relating this, no, and your d cube, no, from earlier here, so you'll have s squared plus h squared raised to 3 halves. So that is the value of your d cube, no. But using also the sine of the angle, diba? We know that the sine of the angle is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's why it's s over d. Okay? So if you use sine of the angle here for our formula, no, and substitute s over d, if you don't know the angle, so but if you know the angle, you can directly substitute here, right? But if you don't know the angle, so you can substitute your s and your hypotenuse, the distance. So you'll have your illumination equals is over d cube. I, where again, your d is d squared equals s squared plus h squared here. Okay? So you have two possible formulas here. So the one, if this one, if your surface is horizontal, and then this one, if your surface is inclined. Okay, so let's have an example. So if a spotlight is 3 meters above the floor, so that's your height. Aiming at a point 3 meters away from the foot of the lamp pan, its intensity in this direction is 1,000 candelas. Calculate the illuminance. Okay. So what will we use here? So you're given your intensity is 1,000 candelas. Your height is 3 meters, and the distance from the foot, no, of the lampand is 3 meters also. So you have 3 meters and 3 meters. So using cosine, so you'll have or using Pythagorean theorem actually, no, to first solve for the distance or directly from the lamp to the surface. No, so you'll have here 4.2426 meters. Okay, so just substituting h s and h. Okay. And then once you have your distance here, so we can directly use actually yung other formula, no, the E equals IH over D cube. Okay, you can also use this one. But if you want to use the cosine, so you can get the uh, cosine here. which is adjacent over the hypotenuse, right? So you'll have 3 meters over 4.2426, you'll have 0.7071. So substituting it on the original formula, no? So you'll get 39.2837 lakhs. So again, you may use this one, no, getting the angle, or once you have your distance d or your hypotenuse, you can directly use this one. Now, so if you try this, you'll also arrive at the same answer. Okay. So far questions. So far is this clear? Are you following? Okay. So another one. So a lamp with intensity of 50 lumens and height of 8 meters. So find the illuminance on a wall. Take note, this is a wall located 4 meters away from the foot of the lamp. Okay, so this is how you will differentiate the formula you're going to use. So usually if the surface to be illuminated is floor, okay, you'll use cosine. But if the surface to be illuminated is wall, no, or a surface that is inclined, so you will use sine, no, the formula with the sine. Okay, so given again is your I, your S, and your H, no, the height. So just like what we did earlier, you need to get first your hypotenuse here. So you'll have what? 8.9443 meters. So that is from Pythagorean theorem again. And then once you have your D, again, you can get the sine theta, which is this one, no, and substitute it into the formula. Or you can use again the direct one, no? The E equals I S over D cube. Okay, so I think this is faster, diba? Because this already involves the S over D. No? And also you will arrive with the same, or you should arrive with the same answer. So 0.2795 lakhs. Okay. So another example here. So this is also for a horizontal surface. So a lamp giving out 1,200 lumens. No, so that's your I. Um, okay. So this is suspended 4 meters above. So that's your height above the working plane. So calculate the illumination at the point on the working plane 6 meters away from the foot of the lamp. Okay, so this is the same setup as the first one, right? So directly substituting the values first again to get your hypotenuse, the D here. Okay, so you'll have 7.2111 meters, no? And then substituting it, no, you may again use the direct one. E equals I H over D cube. Okay, so again, the important part here is to determine when will you use cosine and when will you use the sine theta. Okay, like in this example, so it's not mentioned that the surface is a wall. So the assumption there is always a horizontal surface unless it is stated. Okay? Okay, so how about this one? So in a straight lighting, two lamps are having luminous intensity of 300 candela. So you have two lamps. So you have IA and IB. Okay? So each of the lamps have 300 candela, no, luminous intensity. But they are mounted at different heights. So lamp A, so you have 6 meters from the ground, and then lamp B, you have 10 meters from the ground. So distance between the lamp posts is 12 meters. So the question is to find the illumination just below the two lamps. Okay, so you will need to find illumination for each lamp, no, below the two lamps, or each below each lamp. Okay, that's why you need to find E sub 1 and E sub 2. So how do we use that? So this time we're going to combine the formulas. Okay? So since they are uh, situated, no, beside each other at a certain distance. So lamp A here, of course, it has the illumination directly below it. No, that's what we're solving for. But lamp B also has influence on this surface, 'di ba? Because the light of lamp B also reaches E sub 1. Okay? And similarly, the surface between lamp B, aside from its own direct illumination, is also illuminated by lamp A. Okay? Meaning, your E sub 1, no, is the sum of the illumination between E sub A and E sub B. Also, your E sub 2 is the sum of the illumination, no, between E sub A and E sub B. So if you notice, so we can have an assumption here that what they are similar, no, or they should be equal, right? Because E sub A plus E sub B here, and then E sub A plus E sub B. But take note that the E sub A for E1, okay, for E sub 1, your E sub A is normal. Okay, so we should add some details here. So for E sub 1, E sub A is normal. While E sub B, no, the illumination of E sub B is inclined. Okay? While for E sub 2, the illumination for E sub A is the one inclined, but E sub B is normal. Okay, so even though their their formulas or equations look the same, E sub A plus E sub B, so you're going to consider that E sub 1 and E sub 2 surfaces have different positions. So each lamp will have a different effect on each surface. Okay? So we'll solve first for E sub 1 here using E sub A, no, your direct light source or normal plus your E sub B, which is inclined. So for E sub A, we'll use the inverse square law. And then for E sub B, no, for E1, we will use your cosine law. Okay? So given naman yung ating distance and the candela, so E sub A, you'll have I over D squared. You'll have 8.333 lux. While for cosine, no, for cosine, you will need to first find this distance. Diba? Because this is your uh, hypotenuse, right? So this is, let's label this as what was done here. So let's label this as dA na lang. Okay, because this is from A, right? And then this one is dB. Okay, so meaning this dB squared here, no, so we're actually looking for dA squared. Okay, so to avoid confusion, no, so that we're uniform. So dA squared is, of course, Pythagorean theorem, no, using 6 and 12. Mm, sorry. Uh, we're not gonna be finding dA pala. No, we need to find dB. Okay. So I thought it was just a wrong notation. So we actually need dB because we're talking about E sub 1, no? And aside from this light source, 'di ba, we already solved this, the 8.33. What we need is not this one. Okay? So we need the one from B. Ayan. So we need the light source from your lamp B. Okay? So that's why we solved here for dB squared. Okay? So this distance. Okay? So then after getting it, so we will substitute it, no, to the formula. So either get the cosine again or use the direct formula of E equals IH over dB cube. Okay, so if you use this one, you'll also arrive with 0.64. Sorry, not 0. Not this one. You'll also arrive with 0.7871 lux. And then combining the two, no? So this one and this one, so you'll get 9.1204 lux. So that is the surface just below lamp A. For lamp B, at point 2 here, so we'll do the same. Now, first one, we'll get the illumination directly from lamp B. So we will use inverse square law. Okay? So using inverse square law, you'll have here 3 lux. Directly substituting. While for the illumination from source A or lamp A, so this one, and so we will need to get again D sub A. Okay, so using Pythagorean again, so we'll get 13.4164 meters. And then substituting it either to get cosine first or again. If you can use the direct formula, much better. So you have I H over dA cube. So you'll also arrive with 0.7454 lux. So combining the two, this one and this one, so EA and EB, so you'll get 3.7454 lux. Okay. So is this clear? Did you follow this one? Okay, so it's all just direct sub. No, it's just about analyzing which sources you need to combine for the two. Okay, so this one, no, so I'll leave this one to you for practice, although the solution is given here. So it's basically just the same. No, but the challenge here for this one is to find the illumination in the middle. Okay, so in the middle. So it's like uh, your approach here will be, so we'll just consider this as your surface, diba? So basically, your E total there is again E sub A plus E sub B. Okay, but you will consider this direction of your light source as your D sub A. Oh, wait, let me. So D sub A, then this is your D sub B. Okay, so you will use what? Both cosine law. Okay, to get the E sub A and E sub B. Also, you will need to determine the distance. Okay, so distance here from lamp A to the surface, and then from lamp B to the surface. Okay? So since your surface is situated, no, directly in between. So sabi naman here, middle of the post. So meaning your distance from A to the surface is 20 and from B to the surface is also 20. Okay? So from there, you can get the cosine law for E sub A and the cosine law for E sub B. And then you're just going to combine. Okay? So I leave this one to you for practice. No? Uh, I already wrote here the important details that you need to consider. Okay? So when we say luminous intensity, so luminous intensity, yung I that we used in the formulas earlier. So this is the intensity or the light flux of a light bulb or a lamp emitted in a specific direction. So its unit is in candela. Okay? So the light intensity distribution of a lamp or luminaire can be determined by the type of reflector and is normally shown as a light intensity distribution curve. Okay? So let's say you have a surface here. So light intensity distribution curve is something like this. If this is your lamp source. Okay. So of course, the light intensity will be greatest, no, directly below. But as your surface moves farther away from your bulb, no. So if this is the light intensity level, no, so your level will decrease. Okay? Then when we say illuminance, so yung sinasolve natin earlier, illuminance is the concentration of the luminous flux incident on an element to the surface at a point of surface containing the point. Or basically, no, the concentration of the luminous flux to the point, no, by the area of that element. So the unit is in lux. Okay? So illuminance describes the amount of light falling onto or illuminating a given surface area. Okay? So you illuminate something by shining or projecting a light toward you. Okay? So that's the process of uh, illuminating. So when we say luminance, so luminance is a sort of combination of luminous intensity and illuminance. Okay? So this is how much light is striking or coming out of a surface per unit area per solid angle. Okay, so that's why it's somehow a combination of luminous intensity, this one, and illuminance. No, so the description is a bit of a combination of both. So we also have luminous efficacy. So when you say luminous efficacy, this is your lumens. Okay, so lumens per watts. So this is the ratio of your luminous flux emitted by a lamp to the power consumed by the lamp. So because we're talking about electrical lamps here, so aside from emitting light, they are also consuming electrical energy. So remember, we are converting the electrical energy into light energy. Okay, so this is a term used to indicate the efficiency of energy conversion from electricity to light. So that is your luminous efficacy. So this is measured in lumens per watts. Okay? So when you say flicker, so this is the repeated and frequent variation in the output of light source over time. Hindi po ito yung flicker sa ML ha. Okay, so that is different, no? So this is when you say flicker, if you see a light source that is somehow it's like blinking, no, nag-on off siya rapidly or on a certain interval, no? So that is called flicker. Sa Tagalog, parang nakuraw, kiraw pala yung ilaw. Parang nakurap, gano'n. So it's like blinking. Okay? Then glare is defined as too much brightness from a direct light source that makes it hard to see what one wishes to see. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, so poor lighting no involve also glare. If too much lighting is being used, let's say for example, you have a surface that is very reflective of light, like color white or another reflective color, and then you use too much brightness of your light. So what will happen is it will seem like you're in heaven, diba? Like I mentioned last time. So if you use all chandeliers or halogen lamps in your design, your house will look like heaven. It's so bright inside. Okay, so that is poor lighting. Okay? So the color temperature of light source is the temperature of an ideal black body radiator that radiates light of comparable hue to that of the light source. So color temperature is conventionally stated in unit of absolute temperature or in Kelvin. Okay, so although the term is color temperature or color, 'di ba? But we use the temperature to describe it. Okay, so if you have for example, if you have visited the hardware before and then you bought a light source, no, usually the specification there is not actually in color. No, sometimes the specification of the color is in numbers. So those numbers are actually the color temperature, no, not the color number. Okay? So when the temperature of incandescent source is increased, more light is produced. No? And then the color of the material changes from red at low temperature to yellow and finally to nearly white as the temperature is increased. So this is what I'm talking about. As the number of the temperature increases here, the color also increases. Okay? So the correlated color temperatures of light sources are expressed by the temperature of the black body radiator, no, whose color is closest to that of the light source. So some references here. So light from warm white light sources so appear yellow white and will have their correlated color temperature between 2700 Kelvin and 3500 Kelvin. Okay. So cool white ranges from 4500 to 7500. Okay. So light sources in mid-range, from 3.5 to 4.5, the one between warm white and cool white, so they are described neutral white. So when you visit the hardware and you ask for light sources colors, so these are what they're going to tell you: warm white, cool white, neutral white. Okay. So presently, the lighting industry formally refers to warm white, this one, 3000 Kelvin, white at 3.5, cool white, so 4 to 4.5, and daylight based on the ANSI standard. Or when you say daylight, 'di ba, if you notice, this is very high temperature, no, or very high number. So it's almost to replicate daylight, okay, or the light from the sun. Okay. So far, questions regarding our discussion. Okay. So there's not much computations here actually, no. So since we're only introducing no and basic concepts, so the most of the computations is only involving the light intensity or illumination, no. So let's proceed to light sources so that we can finish this part of the lecture. And if we have we have the time next week, no? So you can or we can go back to AC circuit fundamentals, no, the RLC. Okay, although we will just skim through it, no, para lang hindi siya maiwan for our discussion. No? But your finals topics will heavily involve electrical system design and this illumination design. Okay? So that you can also focus on your final design project and your other plate. So can you also remind me when did I tell you the submission of the plate number 2 is the next parts of the design project? Did I already mention a submission deadline for the plate 2? Plate 2 muna. Is it next? Yes, yes. Please confirm.
Sa next face-to-face po, ang plate 2.
Okay, thank you. So, ano ba ngayon? Week 12, no? Okay. So next week. Because week 13 is our supposed face-to-face. Tama ba? Tama, no? Week 12 kasi ngayon. Week 10, 11. Tama. So week 12. So week 13. So next week. Okay? So next week will be your submission of your plate 2. So I think I already mentioned what you need to submit then. And also, if you want to already work on revising your plate 1, you may start doing so based on the comments that I wrote there. No. Yes, question.
Sir, kailan po mismo ang pasahan?
Okay. Since I'm only available until Wednesday, since I don't have schedule on Thursday and then Friday, we're all online. So the submission deadline will be Wednesday at 12 noon again. Okay, so Wednesday 12 noon or on or before. Okay. Okay, so let's proceed no with the next part of the discussion, which is light sources. So we can categorize no light sources that I mentioned earlier, diba, in types of lamps, no, according to three groups. So first one by temperature incandescence. So in this method, the electric current is passed through a filament of thin wire placed in a vacuum or inert gas. So the current generates enough heat to raise the temperature of the filament to luminosity. So again, the principle here is what scientists before used or did, no, wherein they have yan. So this is connected to your voltage source. No, before it was only battery, but for example, we're considering AC source. No, and then yan, and then this is your for example housing for the terminal connection, and then this is your filament. Okay, so before they experimented a lot of possible filaments or conductors for this one. And and of course, the first experiments were failed because the filaments cannot sustain the current before reaching luminosity or glow. No, yung glow. Okay, so they usually melt or they act as fuse. So the key here before was to enclose, okay, enclose this in an enclosure and then fill it with inert gas. So when you say inert gas, yung non-reactive na gas. So as to cool down your filament or conductor while current is passing through it until it burns or it glows. Okay? So that's how they achieve yung design, yung earlier design ng mga light sources. So we have incandescent or filament type. No? So this is the more traditional one. Okay? So it consists of glass globe completely evacuated and a fine wire known as filament with it. Okay, so if you notice, by the way, in our discussion topics here, a lot of the discussion involves terms. Okay, so you can expect in your final exam there will be a lot of terminologies or applications of terminologies here, and somehow less of computation. No. Okay. So the ideal material for the filament of incandescent lamps involves these properties, no, or these are the requirements. So high melting point, no, so that it doesn't melt easily. Low vapor pressure, so it doesn't burst the enclosure. High resistivity, okay, because if you have high resistivity, 'di ba? We know from our discussion before that your electric power is computed in this formula, I squared R. Remember this? So I squared, this is your current squared, and then this is your resistance. So the higher your resistance is, the more power you can get for the same current. No, so we can, of course, we can increase the current. No, it's easier to have a higher resistance than to increase the current. So we need high resistivity, no, for for your filament, and then low temperature coefficient. Okay, so as again, as not to heat up easily, and ductility. So ductility means your filament should be bendable or it can be reshaped, and sufficient mechanical strength to withstand vibrations during use. So somehow there's some vibrations here, no, uh, in during use. So the materials commonly used for making filaments are carbon, no, tantalum, and tungsten. So those are what we call, sometimes they are called or referred to as semiconductors, because somehow they allow the passage of current, but not so much, no? Like, for example, copper, aluminum, okay? So they only allow, no, the passage of current to a certain degree. But again, if you sustain the passage of current there, so they will reach luminosity, no? So they will glow. So the next category is by establishing an arc between two carbon electrodes. So this is what arc lamps, no, use as principle. So if you have two electrodes here, so if you can see here or in this image, no, so your two electrodes are not connected. Okay, so they are actually, there's actually a space between the two. Okay, we call it sometimes we call it dielectric. Okay, so when we say dielectric, somehow it can transmit current or it can jump. No, so the term is it can jump. The current can jump. Okay, so how will the current jump here? So it jumps in the form of an arc. Okay, so when we say arc, so this is when your current literally jumps, no, from one conductor to another through air. Okay, so the best example here for your reference is, for example, your finger has some static into it. Now, if you have experienced this before, and then you placed it near a metal, okay, even though that metal is not electrically charged or there's no source, no current source on that metal, 'di ba? If you have experienced before, no, you see there's like a zap or a line, no, a thin line of electricity, no, that connected your finger to the lamp. Okay, so you felt grounded or zap or sting. There's a sting to it. Okay, so that phenomenon is the simplest form of arc or arcing. Okay, so meaning the current or the electrons in the metal actually jump into your hand because your hand is missing some electrons. Okay, so this is basically the principle here. You have an anode, you have a cathode here, and then there's also an enclosure so as not to burn or burst, no, the enclosure, or so that your arc will not stray away. Okay, so because if there's no enclosure here, so your arc might jump, no, or move outside, or it can also find other material with less resistance. Diba? Remember, I mentioned before, electrons will move, or the current will always choose to move to the path with the least resistance. So if imagine there's no enclosure here, and then you place your finger, no, near this. So of course your finger will always have less resistance than this. So the arc might actually go to your finger. Okay? So you will become the light source, not this. Okay. So arc lamps, no? So the electric current is made to flow through two electrodes in contact with each other, which are drawn apart. No? So again, they're somehow in contact, but there's a minimal gap between them. So the arc maintains the current and is very efficient source of light. So instead of uh, flowing current through a filament continuously, so it is more efficient to use arc, no, to jump from one electrode to another. Okay. So various forms of arc lamps. So they involve carbon arc lamp, flame arc lamp, and magnetic arc lamp. Okay. So the basic construction or the circuit for your arc lamp is something like this. So I have DC supply. So you have a stabilizing resistor here. So not so as not to overcurrent. Then you have your carbon electrodes, no, on each side, and then there's your arc. So as you can see here, this is your gap. So there's a gap, no, between the two. Okay. So the arc flows through that gap. Okay. So these lamps are used in searchlights, projection lamps, and other special purpose lamps like those in flash cameras. So the arc here, as compared to the filament one, no, it produces greater illumination, no, or greater luminance as compared to filament lamp. Because filament lamp, you will have to wait until the filament reaches luminosity. And also, there's only a limit, no, to depending on the type of your filament. Okay? But with the arc here, so it's only limited to your enclosure. So if you use a clearer enclosure, no, with of course still some inert gas into it, you will have a brighter lamp. Okay? Then we also have discharge lamp. So in all discharge lamps, the electric current is passed through a gas or vapor, which renders it luminous. So this process of producing light by gaseous conduction. So the most commonly used elements are neon, mercury, and sodium vapor. So these are the more common substances used in fluorescent lamps. So neon, mercury, and sodium vapor. So as I mentioned earlier, if you break, no, a fluorescent lamp, so there's some gassy substance inside, or gas will be emitted upon breaking. Okay, so that's your gaseous vapor or gas vapor. So in these lamps, gas or vapor is made luminous by electric discharge through them. So these gases, mercury, neon, and sodium, vapors, no. So if you pass electric discharge, so they will glow. So I think neon is more familiar to you. Di ba you have neon lights, no? So the principle of neon lights is to illuminate the gas. Okay, that's why this is called discharge lamp. Okay, so the color and intensity of light, that is the candle power emitted, depends on the nature of the gas. So I think the brightest one here is the neon. No, as you can also see from the neon light sources. Okay, so these lamps are luminescent lamps and do not depend on the temperature for higher efficiencies. So you don't need to increase the temperature. So in this respect, they differ radically from incandescent lamps whose efficiency is dependent on temperature. Okay, so that's why they're more efficient, because why is incandescent lamps less efficient? It's because the energy conversion in incandescent lamps involves electrical energy to light energy, but also electrical energy to heat energy. So if you only need the light from the lamp, no, and you don't need to warm. 'di ba, yourself or the surrounding, no? So incandescent lamps are not that efficient. Okay, as unless specifically used for heating also or warming. Okay? So the colors of the light produced depends on the nature of the gas. So neon discharge fields orange to red light, no? Mercury vapor light is always bluish. So this is more common in fluorescent lamps. Sodium vapor is yellow orange. Okay? So some types of discharge lamps. So type 1. So these lamps in which color of light is the same as produced by the discharge through the gas vapor. So for example, you have mercury vapor lamp, sodium vapor, or neon. So the three gases mentioned earlier. So that's for type 1. Type 2. So those lamps which use the phenomenon of fluorescence. Okay, so these are your fluorescent lamps. So type 2 discharge lamp. Okay, so in these lamps, the discharge through the vapor produces ultraviolet waves, which cause fluorescence in certain materials called phosphor. Okay, so the fluorescent lamp is coated with phosphor, which absorbs invisible UV rays and radiate visible light. Okay, so the purpose of the phosphor is to absorb the UV and then to radiate visible light. Okay. So if you see fluorescent lamps there and you're wondering why they are color white, no, what is the white coating there? Or can't they be a clear glass? No. So the answer is this. So the phosphor, the purpose of it is to filter out the UV ray and to radiate the visible light. Imagine if there's no phosphor there, no, and you have a fluorescent lamp that has no phosphor, so you will absorb the UV ray. So it's like having a sun inside your house. No, so that is harmful actually. Okay, especially on your skincare. Okay, so the most common type 2 lamps or fluorescent lamps, mercury vapor, and of course the fluorescent lamp. So in general, the discharge lamps are superior to metal filament. However, they have the following disadvantages. So high initial cost. So of course they're more expensive than buying filament lamps. Poor power factor because power factor is a measure of how efficient power is being used. No, so because of their added operation, no, like for example the gas vapors. So and also induction, no. So it decreases your power factor as compared to metal filament lamps. They are highly resistive or in AC circuits. No, that's why I want to go back to the AC circuits. So metal filament lamps, their circuit element is only resistor, or you can only think of it as a purely resistive element. While gas discharge lamps or discharge lamps, they have a resistor for the light, but they will also have your what we call reactance or the imaginary part. Remember during the midterm exam. So this imaginary part decreases the power factor. Okay? So starting is somewhat difficult, which requires starters or transformer in some cases. So if you have seen fluorescent lamps, yung pahaba, no, the long ones, sometimes or the original design always includes what we call ballast or starter. Okay? So what do we need the starter for? So discharge lamps, they don't use very high current, no, to illuminate. Okay, they only need uh, small current, no, to sustain. But sometimes, no, if you don't have the ballast or the starter, okay, no, baliktad pala. They will need high current, no, to operate. Ayan. So they will need high current to operate or uh, to create, no, yung either yung arc or the gas discharge. Okay? But with our setup, for example, in the Philippines, no, we were operating at 230 volts. So the current there from switching alone or the source alone will not be enough to illuminate the gas. Okay, that's why you need a ballast or a starter to step up the current or to increase the current uh, temporarily during starting. And then after that, it will automatically disconnect or your ballast or starter or transformer no will sustain the current in the lamp. Okay? So if you have experience before, let's say yung term is punde, no, yung ilaw, your fluorescent lamp is not working even though you're switching. There's power, there's no brownout, no? But why is it not working? It's because your ballast or your starter or the transformer in it is not stepping up the current. That's why even though you have the enough power supply from Meralco, Batelec, no, your lamp will not work if the starter is not working. Okay, so in some light sources. Okay, also in some of the gas discharge lamp or discharge lamps, so time is needed to attain full brilliancy. So you see this on some uh, halogen discharge lamps. Let's say, for example, you're in a gymnasium and then they turned on the light. No, as you if you see at first, why is the light very uh, not lighting? Okay, the light is not lighting, or the light is somehow still not enough. Okay, but eventually, no, after some time, no, it will attain full brilliancy, or if you notice, the light will be already bright. Okay, so that's one of the disadvantages. You have to have a long starting period before it attains full brilliancy. Okay, since these lamps have negative resistance characteristics, ballasts are necessary to stabilize the arc. Okay, so that's also the purpose of the ballast. So the flicker caused due to the fluctuation of light output no, at twice the supply, it causes stroboscopic effect. So sometimes when you, 'di ba when you turn on fluorescent lamps, it does not turn on right away. 'Di ba sometimes it flickers for let's say 4 to 5 flickers before it sustains, right? So that can cause stroboscopic effect or on your eyes, no? Yung parang uh, light na on off on off on off, no? It can cause damage to the eyes. Okay? So they are suitable only for particular position. So ayun, another disadvantage no for discharge lamps, their area of illumination is limited. Okay? So requirements of good lighting. So good lighting is one which provides visual comfort. Of course, that's one of the main purposes. So visual comfort enhances the efficiency of the workman. So usually good lighting is often confused with high illumination level. So this is what I talked about earlier. It just because you have a very high illumination source like chandelier or halogen, no, doesn't mean you can use it inside the house. Okay, or inside every room. No, because if that's the case, diba, it's easy to just select halogen, chandelier, high intensity discharge, or all LED lamps. Okay, so of course it will need the requirement there is always comfort of the workman no, inside the area. Okay, or depending on the requirement. So the factor which are to consider are minimum glare and brightness contrast. So light sources should be properly shielded by luminaires and mounted above the normal line of sight. So when we say luminaires, or you might be confused here, luminaires is your enclosure. Okay? So this is where you put your light source. Okay? So types of luminaires, for example, pin lights or actually chandelier is a type of luminaire. What else is there? So I forgot the other terms. So we might encounter them later on. Or if you are considering your design already, your floor plan, no? So you can also include in your research the types of luminaires that you're going to use. Okay? So reflected glare is to be avoided by mounting luminaires with respect to the equipment so that the reflected glare is directed away from the observer. So of course, all light have tendency to produce glare, not to the eyes, but with the proper luminaires, so the glare can be avoided. Now, for example, your luminaire or enclosure has its middle with more thicker coating. Okay, so if that's where the glare of the light source is, so that when you look at the lamp, no, or on that area, so there won't be glare or you can avoid the glare of the light. So diffusing and reflecting surfaces. So you also need to consider ito, your surface to be illuminated. So 'di ba I mentioned earlier, if your surface reflects light very well, no, so you don't need a very bright light source. So when the light falls on polished metallic surfaces or silvered surface, most of it is reflected back according to the law of reflection. No, I think this was discussed in your physics, no, if you have your this topic. The angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection, and only a small portion of the incident light is absorbed, and there is always the image of the source. No? Such reflection is known as specular reflection. So basically, the best example here is if you're illuminating a mirror, 'di ba? We know mirrors are highly reflective, so it will reflect all of the light source, including the image of the source. Okay, so that also applies to every surface. So if your surface is closely reflective as a mirror, no? So the key there is to select a light source that isn't too bright, no, for your surface. So if the light is incident on coarse surfaces like paper, frosted glass, painted ceiling, no, so the more coarse or mas magaspang or mas less reflective surfaces, then it is scattered in all directions. Okay, so yung mga not smooth surfaces, hence no image of the source is formed. And such reflection of light is called diffuse reflection. So the earlier, you have specular reflection when you can see the source of light or when you can almost use the surface as a mirror. Ayan. But if there's no image reflected on the surface, so this is called diffuse reflection. A perfect diffuser is one that scatters light uniformly in all directions and hence appears equally bright from whatever direction it is viewed. So I won't require naman yung floor, no, the actual floor surface, no, for your design, no, na i-include nyo pa dun sa actual drawing, no. But I might ask, 'di ba? So what will you use for your floor, no, and with regards to that, what type of light did you use on your design? So you have to consider that or research that as well. So the ratio of reflected light energy to the incident light is known as reflection factor. So types of lighting schemes. So a good lighting scheme results in attractive and commanding presence of objects and enhances the architectural style of the interior of a building. So you usually see this if you have been to museums. No? The lighting there is of course different requirement. No, they will need to focus on the subjects being shown, diba, or displayed. So due to the comfortable illumination, people would be in a position to do their work properly, accurately, and easily. So you also see this on those co-working spaces. No, if you have been to one, wherein each almost each table is illuminated properly or each cubicle, no, is illuminated properly. Now there's proper lighting for each working individual. So different lighting schemes may be classified as number one, direct lighting. Okay, so in this system, more than 90% of the total light flux is made to fall on working plane. So when you say direct lighting, from the name itself, the light source is directly above the working surface. Okay? So direct lighting, though it's most efficient, is liable to cause glare, no, and hard shadow because of course if you're working directly below the light source, let's say your body will produce the shadow. Okay? But it is mainly used for industrial and general outdoor lighting like yung mga street lamps. Semi-direct lighting. For semi-direct lighting, in the system, 60 to 90% of total light flux is made to fall downwards directly with the help of semi-direct reflectors, while the remaining light is to be used to illuminate the ceiling and the walls. Okay, so this is suited with rooms no, with high ceilings where a high level of uniformly distributed illumination is desirable. So sometimes when you illuminate the ceiling, it helps to also brighten the room. I don't know if you have noticed that or if you have tried that before. For example, brown out, then you're in your room and then your ceiling on your room is a white surface. Now, this is a tip. If you want to illuminate your room better, you can point your light or flashlight to the ceiling. I notice how it brightens your room better than just pointing your flashlight on the wall or on your surface. Diba? You can try that later. No? Go to your room when it's dark, turn off all lights, and then get a flashlight. If your ceiling is reflective and it's lighter in color, reflect your light on the ceiling and you will see your room is somehow more illuminated as compared to pointing your light source on the floor. Okay, so that's the purpose of semi-direct lighting. So glare in such unit is avoided by using diffusing globes, no, which not only improve brightness towards eye level, but improve the efficiency of the system. So semi-indirect lighting. So do I have semi-direct lighting? So you have also semi-indirect lighting. So also 60 to 90% of total flux is made to fall downwards directly with the help of semi-direct reflectors. So this is mainly used for indoor light decoration purposes. So usually for decoration. Then you have indirect lighting. So this system is using more than 90% of total light flux thrown upwards to the ceiling for diffuses reflection by using inverted or bowl reflectors. Okay, so in this system, the ceiling acts as the light source. So this is what I mentioned earlier, and glare is reduced to minimum. No, because it will require that your ceiling is highly reflective and also lightly colored. So this system provides shadowless illumination because, of course, the main source of light is directed upward, which is very useful for drawing offices, no, composing of rooms, and in workshops where large machines and other obstructions would cast troublesome shadows. Okay. So we also have general diffusing lighting. So in this lighting system, lamps made of diffusing glass are used, which give nearly equal illumination in all directions. So I think this is more commonly used in households. No, your lamps at home, no, they have diffused casings or glass. Okay. So design of lighting scheme. So the good lighting scheme should possess the following characteristics. So number one, it should provide adequate illumination. Two, it should provide light distribution all over the working plane as uniform as possible. Number three, it should avoid glare and hard shadows as far as possible. And number four, it should provide light of suitable color. So depending on the requirement. So factors to be considered in designing the light scheme. So you can reference this also, yan, because you will need this for your design. So intensity of illumination. So the intensity of illumination required for different types of work, so they differ. Okay, so the recommended levels of illumination for various occupancies are shown here. No, so before, when we had this subject in electrical engineering, so we had an activity wherein we were asked to go outside and to visit some commercial spaces, na mga grocery, mall, mga ganyan. And then we were required to check no the illumination being used, the type of illumination, the number of lighting fixtures used no in each area, and we I think we're also asked to estimate the height no so as to compute the illumination if it is enough for that establishment. Okay, so that's what we did before. Although I won't require you to do that. No, you can just do some research about this. So types of occupancies here, you have factories, workshops, powerhouses, office, schools like yung school natin. So that's the required illumination, no, the lux of illumination, no, on the second column. Hospitals also, hotels, shops, houses. So this is gonna be your reference because you're designing a residential area or residential building. Okay, so you have living room, general living room for housework or sustained reading, and then you have kitchen, bedroom, and bathroom. Okay, so you need to consider this, no, for your design. Storage places, sports facilities, and canteens. Okay, so notice how in column 2, there are some special lighting mentioned. Operating table in hospital, so they require special lighting, of course, yung may hinihila-hila, no, na lighting. So that's necessary for the operation. And then shop window, so why is it also special lighting? Because they will need to highlight certain products. So there's special lighting involved there also. Selection of luminaires. So luminaire or light fitting, yan, ito pala. So it's the apparatus which distributes, filters, or transforms the light given by a lamp or lamps. So okay. So it's a type of enclosure for your lamps. So it included all the times necessary for fixing and protecting these lamps and for connecting them to the supply circuit. So the choice of lamps for different types of occupancies differs. No? So you have tubular, fluorescent lamps. So these are common, no, in offices and some houses also. Or tungsten filament lamps can be used when lighting is to be done in small premises. In case of large premises, lighting can be carried out by using high intensity sources such as yung mercury natin and sodium discharge lamps. So the linear output of lamps can also be modified by using suitable reflectors and diffusers. No, yung mga diffuser natin to distribute the light or reflector also, no, to direct the light into your desired angle, depending on the type of illumination required. Then mounting height and spacing of fittings. So the term general lighting implies that the illumination at working level should not vary substantially throughout the room. Okay, so for example, you have your living room, no, and it has a large surface area. So you will need to consider how many lighting fixtures are you going to place there. Okay, so although again, I won't require naman you to to include the illumination computation for your design, okay? But I might ask also or ask you to explain how will you consider or how did you consider choosing the type of lighting fixture that you use? Why is there a chandelier in the bathroom? Ganyan, di ba? Or why are there only pin lights in the kitchen? Okay? Or why is there a chandelier in your in your dirty kitchen? All chandelier house. Okay? So the distance from the light source from the wall should be equal to one half of the distance between two adjacent light sources. So you need to consider this one. Now, if you're going to consider the number of lighting fixtures in your lighting circuit on your design. Also, distance between lighting fittings should not exceed 1.5 times the mounting height. Okay? So again, I will not ask or require you to include your uh, height of your house, no? But you need to understand how will you consider the design for the lighting for your design. Okay? Conditions of use of light fittings vary with different types of installation. So dust and dirt of the surroundings may be dust and dirt yun. No, I think that should be dust and dirt of the surroundings may get deposited in the light fittings and hence deteriorate the lamp efficiency. So of course, if you don't usually clean or regularly clean your light fittings, no, so dust, dirt, and sometimes even ants may occur or accumulate there, blocking the light source. So if regular periodic cleaning is adopted and assuming good atmospheric conditions, so the value of maintenance factor may be taken as zero point 0.8. But for dusty and dirty atmosphere, so the factor may be as low as 0.4. So another term, depreciation factor, is also used, which is the reciprocal of maintenance factor. So in depreciation factor, I think you will encounter this if you have engineering economy subject, yung mga kino-compute yung mga prices or yung mga annuity, yung mga ganun, no? Mga interest, yan. So if you have that subject also, you will encounter this factor, depreciation factor. So all appliances or devices have depreciation factor, meaning over time, their value, if they're being used, no, the assumption or the assumption is that they are used regularly. So of course, the assumption there is that from their manufacturing date, and then if used regularly or continuously, the assumption is that their efficiency will degrade even if you have maintained it very well. Now, if you regularly clean it or if there's no damage to it, still the efficiency of that device will uh, decrease. So that is your depreciation factor. Okay. So this covers your topic, no, for actually for the finals, no, the electrical systems design and also the illumination engineering. Okay. So next week, we'll just go back, no, a bit, no, so that you can have consideration also, because I think you have engineering utilities too, which involves I'm not sure if it involves the machines, because it is usually handled, as I've seen in your curriculum, it's usually handled by mechanical engineering, no? Your electrical engine, your engineering utilities too na subject. Okay, so we will need to go back a bit, no, for the AC circuits part, so as not to leave it out of your learning. Okay, so that will be discussed next week, no, the RLC part. No, just the basic concepts and how they are related to AC circuits. Okay, but I think as far as I know, no, your topic coverage for the final exam will involve the electrical systems design, yung discussion, and also illumination engineering, no, up to this part. And will I think will also involve or include the basic design tables, no? So you also need to familiarize yourselves with that for the basic design tables as the coverage of your final exam. Okay? So I think we have agreed, me and Sir Banwa have agreed na we'll only include AC circuits, though the latter part, no, if there's enough time, no, to discuss, or if we have covered or discussed it comprehensively. Okay? So any questions with our topic discussed today? So I think we have already covered almost all of the finance topics. So any questions before we end? Okay. So again, a reminder. So submission of your plate number 2 is until Wednesday next week, no? Wednesday 12 noon. Okay. So you can only you can collect your work, your output, then submit it to me with only one representative, no? So para hindi naman kayo yung isa-isang pupunta pa dun. Okay? Also, I think we're already settled with your midterm exams, no? So I think I'll already written your papers, no? I also took note of those corrections sa scores. Okay? Okay. So if there are no more questions, concerns, so that will be all for our discussion today. So we will continue next week, no? So to go back to the latter part of the AC circuits. Okay? So just for the sake of covering it also. Okay? But your focus is on the electrical systems design and also illumination engineering design, no, for use of your for your final project. Okay? So that will be all for today. So again, good morning everyone, and have a nice weekend ahead. Okay? Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you po, sir.